The night sky over Earth was calm, filled with quiet stars that had watched humanity for ages. But tonight, one star moved, burning brighter and brighter, until it split the clouds apart. A silver ship, smooth as glass and glowing like the moon, entered the atmosphere with a thunderous roar. People across the world looked up, eyes wide with fear and wonder. It was not a meteor, not a satellite, but something alive, intelligent, and powerful. Inside the ship stood Lyra, princess of the Aurelian Empire, a race that ruled 1,000 suns. Her eyes were bright like molten gold, and her voice carried the pride of a queen who had never lost. To her, Earth was just another primitive world, another step in her empire's endless expansion. She looked down at the blue planet and smiled coldly. "So this is the world of the Dustborn," she said. Her soldiers bowed before her, their armor shining under the ship's light, waiting for her command. Lyra was not here to explore, she was here to claim. Deep below Earth's surface was a rare energy crystal known as eclipsite, a power that could bend time itself. Her scientists told her it was born from the heart of dead stars, and Earth had more of it than any world known. She believed this was her destiny, to take what belonged to the universe. After all, who could stop her? The daughter of the stars. The ship landed in the desert, sand turning to glass under its heat from the horizon. A group of humans arrived, scientists, soldiers, and one man who stood silently among them. His name was Dr. Ethan Cole, a calm figure with tired eyes that had seen many strange things. He watched as the alien princess stepped out of her ship, her golden armor glowing under the sun. Lyra looked at the humans as if they were insects. "Bring your leader," she said. "Tell him the Aurelian Empire now protects your planet." The soldiers around her laughed, but Ethan did not. He took a step forward and said softly, "Protect or control, there's a difference." Lyra turned her head, surprised that a human dared speak to her directly. "You speak boldly for a creature of dust," she said. Her voice sharp but amused. Ethan only smiled. "Maybe dust is stronger than you think?" Lyra waved her hand, and her drones spread across the desert sky. Scanning the planet's surface, she was confident, almost playful, as if nothing could go wrong. But then, her ship's sensors began to flicker, the lights dimming for a brief second. Her commander looked up in confusion. "Your Highness, there is interference," Lyra frowned. "From where?" "Unknown," the AI replied. "The signal source is everywhere." The air around them began to hum with energy, soft at first, like a vibration from the ground. Animals fled, the sky darkened, and the wind began to twist into spirals of light. The humans stepped back in fear, while Lyra stood still, trying to maintain her pride. She raised her voice. "Show yourself. Whoever dares to interfere with Aurelian technology will regret it." But there was no answer, only a whisper carried by the wind, a whisper that spoke in a voice older than time itself. "You forget who made the stars." For a brief moment, Lyra's golden eyes flickered with unease. She turned to her soldiers, pretending she had not heard the voice. "It's a human trick," she said coldly. "Ignore it." But her AI spoke again, this time slower, as if frightened. "That was not human, Princess." The temperature dropped suddenly, frost forming on the ship's surface even under the desert sun. The ground trembled beneath them, and the holographic map of the planet began to shift. Something massive was moving deep below the Earth, something that was not supposed to exist. Ethan looked at her, his expression calm but serious. "This planet is older than your empire, Lyra," he said quietly. "You should not wake what sleeps here." Lyra's pride made her laugh, though her voice shook just slightly. "Earth belongs to no one now, it belongs to Aurelian," she said. Her soldiers cheered, but above them, the clouds twisted into spirals of silver light. The whisper came again, clearer this time, echoing in every mind. Alien and human alike. "You forgot who created the stars." Lyra's smile faded for the first time. She felt something she could not explain, something ancient, powerful and aware. She looked at the sky, and the stars above seemed to pulse like living eyes. Her hand trembled, but she quickly hid it behind her back. "Prepare the excavation," she ordered, forcing her voice to stay calm. But deep inside, she knew something was watching her, something that had been waiting for her kind to return, and it was not happy. The next morning, the desert was no longer silent. Lyra's camp had grown into a metallic fortress, filled with alien machines and glowing towers that pulsed like veins of light. Her soldiers worked with speed and precision, drilling deep into the Earth's crust to reach the hidden crystal called eclipsite. The air shimmered with energy as massive engines roared, spreading heat and thunder across the barren land. But beneath all that noise there was something else, a strange rhythm. Like a heartbeat coming from the ground, Lyra ignored it, pretending not to notice. She stood at the center of her command post, giving orders with perfect confidence. To her, fear was a weakness and hesitation was death. She believed that the Aurelian Empire ruled because it never bowed to the unknown. Yet even she could not deny that the signal from the previous night still echoed in her mind. The whisper that said, "You forgot who created the stars," would not leave her thoughts. Ethan Cole returned to the camp that day, escorted by 2 alien guards. He had been allowed inside under scientific supervision, though Lyra clearly did not trust him. He watched as her machines tore into the earth, their drills glowing red with heat. "You shouldn't dig there," he said softly, his eyes fixed on the trembling sand. Lyra looked at him with cold amusement. "You humans have a habit of speaking when you should listen." Ethan smiled slightly. "And you have a habit of not listening when you should." Her soldiers chuckled, but Lyra's gaze sharpened like a blade. "You think this planet belongs to you," she said, stepping closer. "But soon it will serve a higher purpose." Ethan's voice was calm. "This planet doesn't serve anyone. Princess, not even you." Lyra turned away, waving her hand to silence him. "Start phase 2, she ordered. And the machines roared to life once more. Then everything changed. The ground shook violently. Throwing soldiers off balance, the machines began to spark, lights flashing red as their control panels screamed with warnings. Lyra shouted for her engineers, but none of them understood what was happening. One of the scanners showed something impossible. Massive energy signatures moving beneath the surface. Not static, not random, but alive. Her AI's voice echoed through the command center. Cold but trembling. Unidentified movement detected. Energy output beyond Aurelian scale. Lyra frowned. What kind of life form could cause this? None recorded, the AI replied. Unknown to all Imperial archives. Before she could respond, a loud crack tore through the camp as one of the drilling towers exploded. Flames burst into the air and a wave of energy knocked everyone to the ground. The sand around the drill glowed blue and began to move like liquid. Ethan shielded his eyes from the blinding light, shouting, "Turn it off! Stop the machines!" Lyra hesitated, torn between pride and fear. Her soldiers waited for her command, but the voice inside her head whispered again. "Still you dig, still you defy!" Her heart pounded. But she forced herself to stand tall. "Continue the operation," she said. "The Empire does not retreat." The ground answered her words with a roar. A massive surge of energy erupted, tossing metal, fire, and sand into the sky. When the dust settled, silence returned. Half the camp was destroyed, the air thick with smoke and static. Several of her soldiers lay injured, and even the strongest among them looked shaken. Ethan walked forward through the wreckage, his clothes torn but his expression steady. He stopped beside Lyra and said quietly, "You still think you're in control?" Lyra glared at him, her pride burning hotter than the flames around them. "I will not be mocked by a human," she said sharply. "I command worlds. I build empires." Ethan met her gaze, calm and unafraid. "And yet you don't understand the one world standing right beneath your feet." Her AI flickered again, showing strange symbols across the screen. Ancient marks that even Aurelian systems could not translate. Lyra leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "What is this language?" The AI hesitated. "It predates recorded history. Perhaps even predates the Aurelian creation era." The voice came again. Deep and echoing from everywhere, "Child of arrogance. You wake what sleeps," Lyra froze. Her breath caught in her chest. She looked up at the sky, where clouds began to twist in a spiral of golden light. Bolts of silent energy moved across the horizon like rivers of fire. Her soldiers raised their weapons, terrified but ready. Ethan whispered under his breath, "You can't fight the planet itself." Lyra clenched her fists, refusing to believe she could lose control. "We are Aurelian," she shouted. "We bow to no gods, no myths." But the earth below them pulsed once more. Glowing like a living heart, her ship's sensors failed completely, the AI's voice breaking apart into static. Through the chaos, Ethan looked at her and said quietly, "Maybe you should start listening." Lyra turned to face him, her pride cracking for the first time. "What are you?" she asked, voice shaking slightly. Ethan's expression softened, but there was something mysterious in his eyes. Not what, he said slowly, but who I serve. Before she could ask again, the ground split open with a sound like thunder. A bright beam of light rose into the sky,
forming a shape, tall, human-like, but made entirely of shimmering energy.
Its voice shook the air, calm yet terrible. We made the stars, little queen, and we remember your kind. Lyra stepped back, her soldiers trembling behind her. Her heart raced, torn between disbelief and awe. For the first time in her life, the princess of 1,000 suns realized she was standing before something older, greater and beyond her understanding. And the worst part was, it knew her name. The light that rose from the ground burned brighter than the sun. It twisted and shifted until it formed a tall shape made of pure energy. Neither man nor woman, but something vast and timeless. The air around Lyra trembled, and her soldiers could not breathe. Their armor glowed white-hot, systems shutting down one by one. The being looked at them, its voice echoing not through sound but through thought. You came again, children of arrogance. Forgetting who shaped the heavens. Lyra's throat tightened. She wanted to speak, to demand answers, but the words caught in her chest for the first time. Her pride could not protect her. The light felt heavy, pressing against her heart, forcing her to remember everything she had ever done to prove her power. Her empire's victories, the planets conquered, the people enslaved. All of it now looked small beneath that endless glow. Ethan stood beside her, silent, watching the scene with a mix of fear and sorrow. He whispered, I warned you, princess. Earth remembers. Lyra turned to him sharply. What is this thing? Is it human? Ethan shook his head slowly. It's older than humans. Older than your kind too, the being spoke again. We are the star makers, the architects of light, forgotten by those who thought they ruled our creation. The name struck Lyra like thunder. She had read that word once in the forbidden texts of her academy. Ancient myths her empire dismissed as stories. Stories that said the universe was not born by chance but shaped by hands of living light. Her lips trembled. Impossible, she whispered. They were legends. The being's form flickered, almost amused. Then tell me, child of Aurelian, who do you think lit your suns? Her soldiers raised their plasma rifles in panic, aiming at the light. Lyra shouted, Hold your fire! But it was too late. Beams of burning plasma shot toward the being. The light absorbed every blast like raindrops falling into an ocean. Then with a simple gesture, the energy rippled back, not to kill but to show. The soldiers screamed as visions filled their minds. Stars being born, galaxies spinning like rivers of flame. They fell to their knees, overwhelmed. Lyra watched helplessly, tears in her eyes. Stop. Please, she cried. They don't understand. The being turned its gaze upon her. Do you? It asked. Lyra froze, unable to answer. Ethan stepped forward, his voice calm but firm. She doesn't yet. But she can learn. The being's light dimmed slightly, its tone shifting. You, human, are not like the others. Ethan bowed his head. I only protect what still remembers. Lyra looked between them, confusion filling her heart. What do you mean? You speak as if you know it. Ethan's eyes glowed faintly with the reflection of the light. Because it spoke to me long before you arrived. Lyra stepped back, the world spinning in her mind. How could a human know of the star makers? She asked. Ethan smiled faintly. Because they never left. The ground beneath them pulsed again, and from the cracks in the earth, rivers of blue light flowed like veins, connecting mountains, oceans, and sky. Every living thing seemed to hum with energy. It was as if the planet itself was alive and awake. The being spoke once more. When your kind rose from dust, we gave you light to build and grow, but you turned it into weapons. You took the stars and made them tools of war. Lyra lowered her head, shame creeping into her proud heart. Her empire had always taught her that they were gods among mortals, the chosen of the universe, but standing before this being, she saw how small she really was. I didn't know, she said softly, her voice shaking. We thought the universe belonged to us. It never belonged to anyone, the being replied gently. The stars are not possessions, they are promises. Ethan looked at her, his tone calm and sad. Now do you see why I warned you? Lyra nodded slowly. I see, but my people won't believe me. They never listen to weakness. Then you must show them strength in a new way, Ethan said. She looked at him, confused. What strength could stand against an empire? The strength to kneel, he replied. For a long moment, Lyra was silent, The fire around them faded, leaving the world quiet again. The being's light slowly began to dissolve into the air, becoming dust and stars once more, but its final words lingered soft and echoing. Remember, child of the stars, power is not creation, and arrogance is not strength. As the glow vanished, Lyra fell to her knees, her hands trembling in the cold sand. For the first time in her life, she felt something she had never known before. Not fear, not anger, but humility. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder, his voice gentle. It's not too late to change. Lyra looked up at him, eyes filled with both wonder and pain. Change? She whispered. Or face what's coming. Ethan's gaze turned toward the dark horizon, where the faint outline of her empire's ships glowed in orbit. They are coming for the crystal, he said. And they will not stop, not even after seeing this. Lyra's heart sank as the truth hit her. Her empire would destroy everything to claim what they desired. But now she knew the planet itself would not allow it. Something ancient had awakened, and it was watching, waiting, and remembering. The night sky above the desert burned red with light. Dozens of Aurelian warships appeared in orbit, their metallic bodies glowing like blades drawn against the stars. Lyra's empire had come not to rescue her, but to claim what she had found. Her communicator flashed with the royal insignia. The voice of General Kareth, her second in command, filled the air. Princess Lyra, you have done well. We are detecting immense energy from the planet's surface. Prepare the crystal for extraction. Lyra stood silent, the glow of the console lighting her face. Her mind still echoed with the voice of the Star Maker, its words haunting every breath. Ethan stood behind her, watching quietly. They're not coming to help you, he said. They're coming to take it all. Lyra turned toward him, her golden eyes dim with conflict. You don't understand. I have no choice. Ethan shook his head. You always have a choice, princess, but you're afraid of losing power. Outside, the ground pulsed again, faint light weaving through the sand like veins under skin. The world was restless, aware, waiting. Lyra looked up at the stars where her fleet hovered, her voice low. If I defy them, they will destroy me. Ethan's tone softened. Then maybe being destroyed is the only way to save something greater. Lyra stared at him, uncertain. You speak as if you've seen this before. Ethan's eyes reflected the faint blue glow of the earth. Because I have. Before she could ask what he meant, the voice of General Kareth returned. Harsher now. Princess, your silence is unacceptable. Begin Phase 3 immediately, or we will take command. Lyra's heart pounded. The authority in his voice was clear. Disobeying meant death. She took a deep breath, straightened her posture, and said firmly, This planet is unstable, the energy here is alive. There was a pause, then cruel laughter through the speakers. Alive? Kareth said mockingly, You've been among the dust-born too long. Princess power cannot live, it is meant to be taken. The transmission ended, and the fleet above began to charge its plasma cannons. Lyra ran outside, her hair catching the desert wind, her soldiers standing confused and frightened. Prepare shields, she shouted. Do not fire unless I command it. But before they could respond, bright beams of light rained from the heavens. The first explosion tore through the valley, shaking the entire desert. Sand turned into glass, and the horizon burned with white fire. Ethan grabbed her arm, pulling her behind the wreckage of a broken tower. You have to stop them, he shouted over the roar of destruction. Lyra's voice cracked. They won't listen to me, they think I've failed. Ethan looked at her with desperate eyes. Then make them listen. Show them who you are, not what they made you. His words struck something deep inside her, a small voice that had been silent for years. The voice of the real Lyra, not the princess, not the soldier, but the child who once dreamed of touching the stars without owning them. Lyra stood, her eyes glowing with golden fire. She walked into the open desert, her cape whipping in the storm, her voice echoing across the comms. General Kareth, stop the bombardment. You are attacking a living world. But Kareth only laughed, his cold voice filling the air. You've gone mad, Lyra. Stand down or be purged. The sky turned blood red as energy beams fell like rain. Lyra raised her hand, calling upon her suit's power core. A brilliant golden shield formed above her, blocking the next blast. But the energy was too much. Her armor cracked, sparks flying around her. Suddenly the ground beneath her began to rise. Ethan shouted her name, but Lyra couldn't move. The light from the earth surged upward, wrapping around her body like rivers of flame. Her eyes widened as the same ancient voice filled her mind once more. You test creation with your fire, it said. Let creation test you in return. The desert split apart, the sky turned white, and everything stopped moving, for a long moment. There was no sound, no air, no time. Then the light exploded outward in silence, spreading across the sky like wings of gold. Every warship above the planet froze. Systems dead, weapons melting into light. General Kareth shouted orders, but no one could hear. His image flickered on Lyra's screen, fear written across his face. Princess, what have you done? Lyra fell to her knees, gasping for breath as the golden energy faded. Her armor was cracked, her hands shaking, her heart pounding with terror and awe. Ethan ran to her, helping her stand. It wasn't you, he said. It was them. Lyra looked up at the sky where her entire fleet hung motionless. Surrounded by ribbons of living light, she whispered. They stopped the fleet. Ethan nodded. No, they judged it one by one. The Aurelian ships began to turn to ash, dissolving into starlight. No explosions, no screams, just quiet. Peaceful light drifting back into the heavens. Lyra watched in horror and sorrow. They were my people, she said, her voice breaking. The whisper came again, soft and ancient. You cannot command what you never created. Her tears fell, glowing faintly under the strange golden light for the first time. She understood the meaning of power, not to rule, but to protect. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. You can still make it right, Lyra. She looked at him, her voice trembling. How? He gazed at the glowing horizon where the light met the sky. By remembering and by helping others remember too. The wind grew still, the earth quiet once more, but high above, among the fading stars, a new light began to form. The star makers were not gone, they were watching, and they were waiting for her next choice. The desert was silent again, but not peaceful. Ashes from the fallen fleet drifted like silver dust through the air. Glowing faintly before disappearing into the sand, Lyra stood among the wreckage, her golden armor cracked, her pride shattered, her eyes empty yet alive. The once mighty princess of the Aurelian Empire was now just one small figure beneath an endless sky. Ethan stood beside her, quiet and steady, the only constant in the chaos around them. Hours passed and neither spoke. The fire of destruction faded, leaving behind a haunting beauty. Glass dunes, floating lights, and whispering winds that carried echoes of ancient songs. Lyra finally broke the silence, her voice trembling. They're all gone. Ethan looked up at the stars. No, not gone, just returned. Lyra frowned, confused. Returned? To what? He smiled softly. To where they came from. The same place you and I will go one day. His calm words stirred something in her heart, something she hadn't felt in years, a quiet peace, a strange warmth she couldn't explain. How can you be so calm after what just happened? She asked. Ethan glanced at her. Because I've seen worse and I've seen better too. Both come and go like the tide. Lyra's gaze fell to the glowing sand at her feet. Your people are fragile, yet you speak like you've seen eternity. Ethan chuckled softly. Maybe eternity doesn't belong to those who live forever, but to those who remember. Lyra looked at him, confused but intrigued for the first time. She saw the strength in his simplicity, the courage in his calm. He didn't need power, ships or weapons. He had faith not in gods or empires, but in something invisible and real. It was what made humans different, what made them dangerous in ways she could never understand. The ground beneath them pulsed faintly again, not in anger but in rhythm, like a gentle heartbeat. Lyra and Ethan followed the glow until it led them to a massive stone structure half buried beneath the sand. Ancient markings covered its walls, symbols that shimmered faintly as they approached. Lyra touched one with her hand, and light spread across the surface like ripples in water. The door opened slowly, revealing a temple of crystalline light beneath the earth. Inside, time itself felt slower. Blue energy drifted through the air like mist, and every wall pulsed with a quiet hum. Ethan walked beside her, his voice echoing softly. This is what the Star Makers left behind. Lyra stared in awe. It's beautiful, like a heart beating in the dark. She stepped forward, her reflection glowing in the mirrored floor. At the center stood a column of pure light, rising from the ground to the ceiling like a bridge between worlds. Without fear, Lyra placed her hand upon it in an instant. Visions filled her mind, worlds rising and falling, civilizations burning and rebuilding, stars being born. She saw her own empire's history play before her eyes. The pride, the greed, the endless hunger for more. Then she saw the truth, the Aurelian homeworld. Centuries in the future, consumed by the same arrogance she once carried, her people destroying themselves in pursuit of eternal control. Tears filled her eyes as she fell to her knees, whispering, "We thought we were gods, but we were only shadows." Ethan knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. "Now you understand," he said softly. "That's why they spared you. They wanted you to see." Lyra looked up at him, her voice breaking. "Why me? Why not someone wiser, stronger?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Because you can change, and because you were proud enough to listen too late." But not too late to learn. The light around them shifted, forming shapes, memories of the star makers themselves. They looked down upon Lyra, their voices like wind and music mixed together. "Humility is the seed of creation," they said. "Arrogance is its flame, burned too bright. It all turns to ash." Lyra bowed her head, her tears glowing faintly under the light. "I remember now," she whispered. "I forgot who made the stars." Ethan helped her to her feet. Outside, the storm had passed, and the first rays of dawn broke through the sky. For the first time, Lyra felt warmth not from power, but from light that did not demand worship. She turned to Ethan, her voice soft. "You're kind. You live so briefly, yet you hold so much." He laughed gently. "Maybe that's the secret, Princess, when you only have a moment. You learn to make it matter." They stepped out of the temple, the horizon painted in gold behind them. The structure sealed itself, its glow fading into the earth. Lyra looked at the rising sun, and for a moment she smiled. A real smile. Not the cold one of a ruler, but the quiet one of someone who finally understood. She turned to Ethan. "If my empire comes again, will your world fight?" Ethan looked at her with steady eyes. "If they come to take, yes, but if they come to learn, we'll listen." Lyra nodded, her heart both heavy and light in that moment. She realized the truth the Star Makers had shown her. Power was never meant to rule, it was meant to serve. And humanity, fragile as it seemed, carried the strength of remembrance, of heart and of humility. As the dawn spread across the sand, Lyra whispered into the wind, "I belong not to the stars, but to the light that made them." The morning sky above the desert was no longer quiet. It burned with streaks of violet and gold as new ships entered orbit, shimmering like serpents made of metal and light. Lyra felt it before she saw it, the pull of her people, the hum of Aurelian engines resonating deep in her bones. Her heart raced, torn between two worlds, the one she was born to rule, and the one she had come to understand. Beside her, Ethan watched the sky darken again, his jaw tense but his voice calm. "They're back." "Aren't they?" Lyra nodded slowly, her silver eyes reflecting the distant fire. "Yes, and they won't come in peace this time, high above." The fleet assembled like a living storm, dozens of warships forming a perfect arc, their golden symbols glowing as if carved by the gods themselves. From the command ship, a voice echoed through her mind, sharp and commanding. "Princess Lyra, by decree of the Aurelian Council, you are ordered to return at once." She closed her eyes, pain flashing through her. "They know I survived," she whispered. "They know I failed." Ethan stepped closer. "You didn't fail, you changed." Lyra turned to him, her voice trembling. "To them, change is failure. Compassion is weakness." A low rumble shook the earth as the fleet began to charge their cannons. The desert winds howled and the sky flickered with energy. Ethan looked up, his hand shielding his eyes. "If they attack, this planet won't stand a chance." Lyra's heart ached, her pulse echoing with guilt and fury. "They'll destroy everything. Just to erase my shame." Ethan faced her, firm and steady. "Then stop them." "You're the only one who can." She looked at him, her voice low. "If I do, they'll call me a traitor." He smiled faintly. "Then be the traitor who saved a world." The temple behind them began to hum again, its walls pulsing with blue light. It was reacting to the energy in the sky. Almost as if it was alive, Lyra turned toward it, her mind racing. "The Star Makers left a defense here." "I can feel it," Ethan frowned. "A weapon?" Lyra shook her head. "No, something greater. A choice." She placed her hand on the temple's surface, and the light flared to life. The ground trembled, and a beam of pure energy rose toward the heavens. It struck the lead Aurelian ship, not as an attack, but as a message. The massive ship paused, and a holographic image appeared in the air before Lyra. a face she knew all too well. It was Commander Sarax, her mentor, and the man who once called her the pride of the Empire. Lyra, he said coldly. You've broken every law of our kind. You've spoken with the primitives, and you've betrayed our purpose. She stepped forward, her voice steady but full of sorrow. I've seen what arrogance brings, Sarax. I've seen our future. Ashes and silence. Sarax's golden eyes narrowed. We are gods among dust. Our purpose is to rule. Lyra's voice rose. No, our purpose was to remember who gave us the stars. For a moment, silence stretched across the distance between worlds. Then Sarax's tone hardened. Then you have chosen ruin. Energy built within the Aurelian fleet. Blinding arcs of gold spreading across the sky. Lyra closed her eyes, whispering to herself. Forgive me, and touched the temple again this time. The energy didn't attack, it spread outward like a wave. It passed through the desert, through the air, and up into the ships above. The Aurelian fleet shuddered, their systems flickering. Each ship glowed with the same blue light that filled the temple. Sarax shouted, his image breaking apart. What have you done? Lyra's eyes glowed, her voice calm and sorrowful. I've shown them what you forgot, the stars, remember? The fleet's weapons powered down, their golden light fading, but in that same moment, the strain was too much for the temple. Cracks forming in the crystalline walls. Ethan grabbed Lyra's arm. It's collapsing. We have to go, Lyra stumbled. The energy still flowing through her. If I stop now, they'll fire again. Ethan looked into her glowing eyes. Then I'll stay with you. She shook her head, smiling faintly. No, you've already done enough. You showed me what it means to be human. The floor split apart as the energy reached its peak. Lyra turned back toward the sky one last time, her voice filled with resolve. Let them remember this day, the day the stars refused to burn for pride. A blinding light engulfed the desert. The shockwave swept across the dunes, silencing everything. When the glow finally faded, the sky was clear again. The fleet was gone, not destroyed, but vanished into light. The temple had crumbled into glass and dust. Ethan stood alone among the ruins, the wind whispering softly through the silence. He looked up at the stars, now calm and bright once more, and though Lyra was gone, he could still hear her voice in the wind. Power means nothing without purpose. He smiled sadly, whispering, You found yours. Above him, a single star burned brighter than the rest. It shimmered faintly as if watching over him. The desert slept under a quiet sky. It had been many months since the blinding light swallowed everything. Yet the memory of that moment still lingered like a dream that refused to fade. Ethan returned often to the place where the temple once stood, now a field of shimmering glass that caught the moonlight like frozen waves. Every night, he would look up at the stars and search for the one that burned brightest. The one he knew was Lyra, the one that had refused to die. Humanity had changed since that day. Scientists spoke of strange signals coming from deep space, frequencies that hummed in patterns too perfect to be random. The world's governments had stopped their endless fights for resources, choosing instead to build the Starlight Accord, a unified effort to reach beyond Earth. Ethan had become part of it. Though he never sought fame or credit, he worked quietly, helping design the first interstellar probe named Lyra's Promise. Every time he touched its silver hull, he whispered the same words, for the one who remembered. But one night, as he stood alone beneath the glowing dunes, something extraordinary happened. The air shimmered, and a faint pulse of blue light spread across the ground. The same gentle hum he once heard from the temple returned, soft and familiar. He stepped closer, his heart racing. Out of the sand rose a small crystal sphere. Glowing with golden light, Ethan knelt and touched it carefully. At his touch, the sphere opened, projecting a holographic image into the air. It was Lyra. Her form was made of light, her eyes calm, her voice soft yet strong. Ethan, she said, her tone full of warmth. If you are seeing this, then my choice was not in vain. He froze. Unable to breathe, Lyra continued. The Star Makers showed me what was beyond power. Connection, compassion, memory. These are the true gifts of creation. Her image flickered as if carried by starlight itself. The Aurelian Empire fell into silence after I stopped them, but the message spread through the stars. Worlds began to awaken, remembering what they once were meant to protect. Ethan's eyes filled with tears. You once told me that humans live briefly, yet make it matter. Lyra's voice went on. Now I understand eternity without meaning is a cage, But a single moment of truth can light a universe. She smiled gently, the same way she did that last morning before the light took her. If your people look to the stars and wonder who made them, tell them this. The stars are not gods but guardians of memory, and each heart that dares to love without power becomes one of them. The projection faded, leaving only the crystal in his hand. Ethan stood there for a long time, the wind whispering through the dunes, carrying her words into the horizon. He looked up once more at the brightest star in the night sky, glowing with the faint hue of gold and blue. "Goodbye, Lyra," he whispered. "You didn't forget who created the stars, and now neither will we." Years passed, and humanity continued to grow. The first ships left Earth's orbit, bearing names that honored her memory: the Aurelian Dawn, the Princess Lyra, the Star Maker's gift. They carried explorers, dreamers, and poets who looked beyond power and sought understanding instead. Among them, Ethan's descendants carried his journals, the ones filled with stories of the alien girl who came with arrogance and left with grace. Those stories became legends told around fires beneath alien skies. Children would point at the brightest star and whisper, "That's where she watches from, far across the galaxy." In the ruins of what was once the Aurelian Empire, something stirred. Old machines hummed back to life, not for conquest but for remembrance. A young Aurelian scientist uncovered ancient recordings, Lyra's voice among them. She listened with tears in her eyes as the long-forgotten princess spoke of humility and love. And for the first time in centuries, the golden halls of Aurelian echoed with laughter instead of war. Back on Earth, the Lyra's promise launched into the void. Its engines glowed softly, carrying a single message encoded in every signal it sent. Remember who made the stars. As it disappeared beyond the edge of human sight, the same golden blue star pulsed once. As if answering the call, Ethan was gone by then, but his legacy remained in every heart that looked upward and wondered. And somewhere beyond time, Lyra stood among the lights, no longer a princess, no longer lost. She watched over the world she had once tried to rule, now protecting them as one of the very stars she once claimed to command. Her voice, gentle as dawn, whispered through the cosmos. "Arrogance fades, but love endures, for it was never the stars that made us divine, it was the light within." And so, beneath the endless sky, humanity remembered. They no longer feared the dark between the stars, for they knew someone was watching, a being who had once forgotten her creator, but had found her truth among mortals, the one they would forever call the Starborn Princess.